November 29th, 1979. You are not confined to a body. Should I give up my mundane life for spiritual progress? Give up your body identity. Always remember that you are not the body. Then do what you like. Should I meditate? Remaining with full awareness that you are not the body is meditation. You know that you have a body because of your consciousness. In the beginning, knowing that you are not the body, let consciousness be your form. I find it difficult to forget that I am the body. Forget the past. Now you are here and you are told what you are. Have faith and the rest will happen slowly. What is the difference between mumukshu, one who desires to be liberated, and sadhaka, a spiritual seeker? Mumukshu has a body, but the seeker is bodiless. Because of your body identity, death and rebirth apply to you. What is the difference between a seeker and a sage or a siddha? A siddha has achieved the ultimate. There is not the slightest doubt that he is not the body with name and form. He is no more an individual, neither a man nor a woman. Who has spiritual powers? Is he a siddha? No, one who is established in the self is a siddha. Does a sage remember his ignorance prior to becoming a sage? Just as the sun does not know darkness, a sage does not know ignorance. More than self-knowledge, I wish to get rid of pain. For that, you must get rid of ignorance. Then there will be no death and no rebirth for you. Self-knowledge is like sunrise. You see things clearly as they are. My body was born, not me. Your form is consciousness or knowledge, and the ignorance of birth cannot touch it. Hence, you do not have experience of birth. You must have the knowledge of consciousness in order to remove all ignorance. The self must have knowledge of itself. What happens at the so-called death? The vital breath and mind leave the body. As the consciousness is infinite and all-pervading, it has no scope to go anywhere. Before going, it is already there. From consciousness it becomes non-consciousness right there. It is like cooling of hot water when the fire is removed. What is videhi, or bodiless existence? Because of the sattva food body, I come to know that I am. That does not mean that I am the body. I am separate from the body and all-pervading. The body has a form and is given a name, but the name and form do not apply to me. Has the Atma or self any I amness or I taste? No, there is only pure being. That is the non-dual state. With body identity comes the I with the separate form. The me and the mind follow. All his experiences he takes as his knowledge. All these lead to bondage. We hear about revival of the so-called dead on way to cremation. What is the sure sign that a person is dead? It is necessary to wait and watch the skin of the person. If you notice beginning of swelling on the skin, that is a sure sign that the vital breath has left the body. The absence of swelling indicates the presence of vital breath in the body, which can lead to revival. When I see you in front of me, how do you say that you are unborn? If we are born, we must have knowledge of our birth. Do you have knowledge of your birth? No. You have formed a habit of believing whatever you are told. I do not do that. I will not sign the papers seeking my confirmation that I was born. Is waking state possible without existence of sleep state prior to it? No. Waking is knowledge and sleep is ignorance. The sleep gives strength to the waking state to exist and continue for some time. One state is always followed by the other. Does it mean that as long as we are in the body, we are asleep? You are not confined to your body. You are everywhere. The limitation is your imagination. Sleep is a must for the knowledge or waking state to follow. Every human form is a child of ignorance. Let us stop here, as now is a time for our evening bhajans. November 30th, 1979. Since when are you, and due to what? You know that you are, that you exist. That memory of yours is the quality of the food essence of your body. If that food juice loses its wetness, your beingness will vanish. The food juice is called sattva, whose quality is consciousness or beingness. The word sattva is made of sat, existence, and tva, you. It means you are in reality the existence. In every living form, the consciousness is always accompanied by the vital breath. All the activities happen due to the vital breath. One comes to know that one is because of the food body. But who comes to know? That cannot be said. All our thinking in this regard is only an imagination or a concept. Mr. or Mrs. Somebody is a concept. This applies to all of you. You are without name and form. You imagine that you are a body, and the name given to it is your name. If you were not given a name, what would you have said as your name? Nothing. You have accepted your name as you were repeatedly told to do so. Name is useful for practical purposes like addressing you, and in school, college, and for bank accounts, etc. I find that my anger and hatred are increasing, and my capacity to remain aloof from body-mind is becoming weaker. There is no question of anger and hatred when you do not have a body. Your sense of being is not you. It is the quality of the food body. Understand this properly. But I'm worried because my mental control is becoming less. True knowledge of yourself is the only solution to your problem. With that knowledge, your hopes, desires, and cravings will vanish. With that, anger and hatred will also go. When you see yourself as formless, all your problems will lose their resting place. What is the difference between identifying with the body-mind and not identifying with beingness? There is no difference. May I come to my original question? Is there any question prior to your so-called birth? When a child is born, what is its original question? Our knowledge, we are, our consciousness, is material knowledge, is it not? For the newborn, the sense of being was dormant, and its development took place during the first 3 to 4 years. Without looking at the root to the child consciousness, to the origin of consciousness, people are asking irrelevant questions. Have you given a thought to the root of consciousness? For some months, the child's body is a lump of flesh. What is there other than food material? Since when are you, and due to what? Due to what has the root or child appeared? What is the cause of the consciousness? There is life as long as the body material is moist. If the moisture goes, there will be no life. You may not be able to appreciate what we talk here. December 1st, 1979. Consciousness, the primary illusion. Your existence is like the appearance of light when a matchstick is struck. There is nothing before and nothing after. With what equipment are you going to begin your search? When the light, consciousness, is extinguished. It is all over, nothing before and nothing after. Presently, what I am experiencing is material knowledge. Beingness is the quality of the food body. I am talking this from my standpoint. Now I am experiencing my beingness. What control do I have to continue it? I do not need to continue it even for a moment more. With beingness, I experienced the world. I had enough of it. When I started my search for God, it was enough for me to look into the origin of myself, of my consciousness. There was a time when I did not exist. Now I exist. What is all this? What is the meaning of my non-existence? Of my non-existence prior to my so-called birth? That is all that I looked into. I was shown my parents, etc., which was like viewing a television show. I understood its meaning. In short, I investigated the transition from my non-being to being. For me, it was important to find out as to how beingness appeared from my non-being state. If I am asked, how was I 100 years ago, how can I reply? My beingness was absent. God may be great, but to me that was less important than my appearance from non-being to being. Yesterday I told visitors that our experience of the world was full of strife and excessive strife. What have you to say about that? In the past there were hundreds of wars, including the 2 world wars. Have you ever seen any peace in this world? The strife is not only between countries, it is within every country, within every person, is it not? I did not struggle for my well-being and prosperity, but only to find the origin of my beingness. Also, my beingness is time-bound, ready to vanish any time. Under these circumstances, what can I expect from God, however great He may be? If I had any control over my beingness, I would have given due importance to God. God may give me prosperity, but what is its use? If I can lose my beingness any moment, when I was not, there were no problems. The sense of being was uncalled for, time-bound, and depended on food essence. Our knowingness is seasonal, like monsoon. The season lasts for 60 to 100 years. This is my observation. You are free to examine it yourself. How much will my existence be useful to me? These observations are not meant for the common man. He may lose his hopes, desires, and cravings. Life is a struggle, which demands ambition, courage, and energy. This knowledge will render a man unfit for struggle. One must have capacity to turn dust into gold. These mundane qualities are a must for experiencing the world. Otherwise, you will live as if the world is not. With the reduction in the hopes and desires, your world also will fade into non-existence. In order to sustain life, one should be ready to do anything that the situation demands. For that, some have to rule countries, some have to clean toilets, and some to even beg for survival. One has to do all this in order to endure knowingness. Knowingness also gives hopes for future well-being, which is the motive force for all activities. After all, what one wants is to continue, to be, to exist. There is self-love, the love to be, that must not vanish. Bhagavan Sri Krishna has explained the gist of Upanishads to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. This was translated into Marathi by sage Jnaneshwar. That book is called Dayaneshwari, but his elder brother and guru Nivruttinath commented that it was only a translation and not original work. Now write something of your own. Then Dayaneshwar, wrote a book called Amruta Nubhava. Having realized the immortal, Jnaneshwar has put it into words. There is no death at all. Having realized this, he took Mahasamadhi, dropped his body, when he was 21 years old. What is all this? Does anyone think on these lines? What is immortality? Is it to witness the so-called death? Jnaneshwar had no experience of death. The same is here, in my case. When I was not born at all, how can I die? If there was no birth, how did this form appear? That has been shown on the television. I call it a chemical. Our Guru's Guru, Sri Bausaheb Maharaj's photo is there. Who has captured and what is holding the picture? He is wearing only a dhoti, but the picture is so alive. What is holding the picture for 100 years? I call it a chemical. In this world, all the appearances are due to this chemical, and the activities are due to the mechanical. There is no God, no devotee, no Maya, and no Brahman. What have you to say about all this? How does a living form deliver a living form like itself? A human from a human being? A lion from a lion, a donkey from a donkey. The chemical energy which has a mind takes this photograph, and the energy itself takes the same form. All the skill and growth of the form is due to the mechanical. We think that all development needs training. Now take the case of the very ill-natured poor boy. He rises to the stature of a sage and people worship him. The ancient kings are easily forgotten, but people remember and worship this sage. How has all this happened? Has anybody done it or helped it to happen? A temple is constructed in his name, on the top of which there is a golden dome weighing a ton. In Pune, there lived a sage called Jungli Maharaj, meaning a sage from a jungle. The so-called birth is the appearance of the waking state, sleep state, and the knowingness. As long as these three states are there, the thirst, hunger, and activities for their satiety will go on. Many incarnations have happened in the past, but who could stop creation, maintenance, and destruction? I am not at all proud of my knowledge. What control do I have over everything? Even Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Shiva could not do anything that lasted long. What I call as chemical power is termed the supreme consciousness or primary illusion, Mula Maya. The behavior or activities are because of sattva, rajas, and tamas, which lead to mental modifications. The witnessing of the activities happens due to sattva, the news I am. All the happening is due to the three qualities, and there is no you or I in it. The time limits are decided by Mahat Tattva or the Great Reality. Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh exist for millions of years. That is long, but not unlimited. That indicates how long the sattva quality of the Great Reality lasted for these deities. The total of lives of all the deities, a few billion years, amount to a moment of the primary illusion. It means all was false. The lifespans of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh are different from one another. I call them as clocks. That is the clock named Brahma. How long did it tick? The clock named Vishnu ticked 10 times longer, and the Mahesh clock ticked 10 times that of Vishnu. The clock named Mula Maya ticked only once, to equal the total time of all three. Thereafter, what happened to all of them? Nothing. It was all an illusion. I have been talking for the last 40 years. There were so many visitors. What are they doing now? They are all busy with their family affairs. That is their first duty which they have to do. It is in the film and it has to happen that way. Should I continue expounding spiritual knowledge? When I talk, what is in front of me? Others also talk, but what is in front of them? Whose information are they giving? When someone talks, it must refer to something. My beingness, however long, has to vanish one day. What is the use of all this? The beingness has appeared from the non-being state. If I were aware of it, I would not have allowed my beingness to appear. I would have kept myself aloof from it. But it appeared without my knowledge. I must know the why and how of it. First, it occurred to me that I should ask God about the appearance of my beingness. But in my non-being state, where was God? Many came to me and offered help, but I told them, without your giving anything, whatever I already possess, that's enough for me. In my case, everything is under my control except my being, which is really non-being. I have neither birth nor death. I am untouched by any action. What does that mean? Do people think on these lines? Everywhere we see only blind following. With this background, I do bhajans 4 times a day. December 2nd, 1979. You were absent on your first birthday. When did one become aware of one's bondage? After one was already in bondage. You will know when you become that. The guesswork is of no use. We hear everyone talking, even a child talks. Everything is correct and in order for the time being, but the sum total of all talk is 0. I must myself know about me, how my beingness appeared from the non-being state. Many come here and talk about their gurus. I tell them that I already know that their guru is great like a mountain. He is greater than what you know him. Do not leave him. In reality, there is nothing. Everything adds up to nothing. In the past, so many things happened, but what is there today? It is as if nothing ever happened. Nothing good or bad has ever happened. Nothing will happen to anybody. All this is very clear to me. Then why disturb them? Someone who does not know me gives my information. How is that possible? You are a judge. Give your judgment. Prior to the appearance of my beingness, I was in the non-being state. Otherwise, I would have stopped it. Why should I lie in a filthy place for 9 months for the appearance of this uncalled beingness that is in the mother's womb? What an obnoxious place! There was no reason for me to accept all that was happening. That chemical was creating my body for 9 months. Would you ever have allowed being in that stinking place? You could have stopped it only if you had prior knowledge of its happening. Such things can happen only in the state of non-being. Many millions were spent to construct a building. It took 10 years to complete it. Today is its inauguration. Similarly, when your beingness began its appearance, what was its starting point? An astrologer notes the date and time of delivery for making a prediction. The real date and time of birth is that of conception and not of the delivery. There is an error of 9 to 10 months in the time that is noted. How can the predictions come true? But people believe it. They say that the position of the planets is bound to affect the newborn. I had pointed out this error to an elderly astrologer during our visit to Sripur near Dhule. What is the starting point of your belief, graha, that you are? The word graha means both planet and belief in Marti language. It is not the position of the planets that affects your future, but it is your belief in astrology that affects you. You make your consciousness believe, and consciousness is God itself. Whatever consciousness believes happens. It is misuse of a great hidden power. You put your stamp of acknowledgement on the astrological predictions and invite trouble for yourself. What you do not believe cannot trouble you. The pregnant Hindu women do not look at a lunar eclipse as they believe it negatively affects the baby. The same is viewed by the Muslim pregnant women without any ill effects. They do not believe in its bad effects. The Hindu ladies are scared as there are cases of deliveries of deformed babies by viewing an eclipse. When did the belief that we are, that we exist, begin? It is the time since when we remember certain events in our life, like going to school, being beaten by parents or teacher, first time riding a cycle, or first time enjoying the birthday celebrations. Prior to yourself, all these events were still happening, but in the absence of your beingness. This first day is when you were around 3 to 5 years old. Prior to the appearance of your beingness, your state was the same as it was 10 days prior to your conception. Hence, I say that you were absent on the first, second, and perhaps third birthday celebrations. It was the food material that was born, and not you. Your arrival was 3 to 5 years after the birth of the body. You feel that you are endowed with knowledge and that you have realized Brahman, but you are ignoring the focal point, and that is your true identity. Without taking into account the one who is talking, your talk has no meaning. When the ignorant talk about Ram and Krishna, they can be excused. They are not told what they are, and it is only ignorance that is talking. But when you talk about Ram and Krishna, it must be remembered that it is Ram or Krishna that is talking. Paramatma or Parabrahman is ever present, but its existence is like non-existence. In other words, it exists in an unknowable state. Hence, if a sage exists without being noticed, that is in perfect order. From Parabrahman there is existence of the 5 elements, 3 gunas, qualities, Prakriti and Purusha. In that the sun and moon and all the stars are included. When I was in the non-being state, this creation had not happened. Everything appeared with the appearance of my beingness. My non-being is a perfect state. It is the timeless, untainted Parabrahma without beingness. It is the truth and ever existent. In all existence you cannot point to a single thing as ever existent. December 3rd, 1979. Consciousness, the formless God. May God give you long life of over 100 years. In these years, your identities will go on changing. No identity will stick to you till your end. You will say, I was this way, I was that way. Finally, your identity as a very old man will also vanish. If every identity changed from time to time, what is your achievement that you can say, this I am? With what definite identity are you going to continue and enjoy your possessions? In this entire world, can you point out even a single thing which is changeless? With this background, a sage throws all knowledge overboard. He is free of knowledge. Without the food body, the consciousness cannot appear. In other words, for beingness to appear, a food body form is a must. With passing time, millions of bodies appear. All these bodies are time-bound. After their time, they again merge into the 5 elements. Consciousness appears due to the mutual attraction between the cosmic substance and the cosmic spirit. With consciousness appears the world experience. The mutual love keeps the world alive. How does a yogi go into samadhi? The yogi closes the 6 chakras, Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipur, Anahat, Vishuddha, Ajnan, in the spine and resides in the Sahasrara center in the head. Now please, tell me, what is that which is responsible for your present form? I have another question. After dying, where does one go? On hearing a shocking news, one becomes unconscious. Where did one go? Simply because one regains consciousness, you do not call it as death. In the so-called death, the consciousness does not reappear. Consciousness does not go anywhere. The body becomes unfit for its manifestation. What we hear from others is quite different. In a sage, the words come from nirvikalpa, or direct perception. It is not imagined or learnt knowledge. You rarely comment on other gurus or mahatmas. In order to wake up, I take you to your origin. I talk about child consciousness, in which beingness is initially dormant. Just as a raw mango ripens with time, beingness appears in the child consciousness. I have known the child consciousness, and I talk about it. How can I criticize others? When I criticize somebody, what should I take him to be? Should I take him as he appears, an individual soul, or as his true nature? Should I consider his height, weight, and color? I am unable to criticize anybody. Only the ignorance in judgment can lead to criticism. I want to say this again and again, that the body formation happens unknowingly, and the knowingness comes after 3 to 5 years. He, she, or it, or anyone is that knowingness. One does not take external help to know one's knowingness. One has to depend totally upon oneself. A child may become anything, poor or rich, ignorant or a sage. But what was at the root that enabled everything to happen? What is the seed or root of any happening? The root or seed is the same for all. It originates from food juices out of the 5 elemental vegetation. Our consciousness resides in the consumed and digested food juices. In the food originates the movement due to the vital breath, along with consciousness or the sense of being. The language of the vital breath is the mind. Only the food body has a form, but it cannot be anybody's identity. All the rest, that is, vital breath, mind, and consciousness, are formless. There is no white, black, short, or tall there. The consciousness is also referred to as Mahatattva, Brahmasutra, or Hiranyagarbha. Without our sense of being, how can we recognize God or Ishvara? When I have known my origin, is it necessary for me to search for others' origin? I never go to meet any gurus, saints, or sages. If anybody invites me to meet any Mahatma, I tell him that his guru is really great like a mountain. What I am at source, others are the same. For every living being there is the food body and the sense of being along with the vital breath. The birth of every living being is the appearance of waking state, sleep, and the sense of being. Those who cannot understand or accept this simple truth about their origin go from place to place in search of knowledge. They imagine and write their own destiny, and suffer. You get bound or hanged by your own concepts. One who does not know one's own origin, how can he be expected to know others' origin? But people become gurus and anyone can gather a following. All knowledge, however great, is all useless if it does not include the knowledge of one's own source. If the greatness of a guru is to be judged by counting the number of his followers, one's vast knowledge can also similarly make one great. Always remember that the greatest thing is your consciousness, without which you cannot even notice the great world. If your knowingness is not, what can you know? Without your knowingness, is there any pain or pleasure for you? A child may say anything, but for its age all that is in perfect order. While assessing, one has to consider the times and the age. After knowing his bodiless nature, whatever a sage says, that is in perfect order. You must note here that now he knows that he is not the body. Hence his utterance is the truth. In the history you read many different utterances. You must take note of times when they were said. It was correct for that time. The effect of the time is such that the statements are made without thought of the consequent trouble and suffering. The time provides the motivation for the events to happen. Now, while sitting on the floor, I have to take help of my hands in order to get up. This is the result of the time that is past. The changes happen as per the passing phase. A young man can fight an elephant. That is also a passing phase. Later he is unable to do it. Where are these phases decided? At the so-called birth. In the astral body, the necessary changes happen. All the future happenings are not determined by the world, but in the astral body. All the future happenings are filmed and are ready to unfold as per the passing phases. At my 83 years of age, I have to hold a teacup with both the hands. What is wrong with me? Sufficient aging has taken place in the child which appeared 83 years ago. I call it Har Har Mahadeo, that is, it is all coming to an end, alluding to the battle cry of the soldier face to face with death. What is a doctor's job? It is to try to hold the consciousness in the body of the patient, not to allow it to vanish. For any reason, if the nourishment does not reach the consciousness, it cannot remain in the body. Since consciousness is the quality of the food essence, proper food supply is a must. In order to see, you need light. This light is provided by burning food in your body, that is, in your stomach. Consciousness is luminous and godly, and it is called Bhagwan or Vasudeo. The consumed food sustains your beingness. The supreme consciousness or the great reality resides in your food material. Food is necessary to keep your memory I am intact. There was a time when I existed as if not, and there was no struggle to survive. From that state, the present time-bound state has appeared. It needs sustenance. I know the secret of transition from the trouble-free state to the troublesome. There was a time when my beingness was not present. I came to know the appearance of the beingness. I am its witness. This transition from the non-knowing state to the present knowing state itself is a miracle. How did this transition happen? That is all that I saw. This transition applies to every living form, but a rare one in the human form knows the secret of how it happens. December 4th, 1979. Know your eternal state. Our existence is there as long as the food material due to which the child consciousness appeared sustains beingness. When the material gets dried up, our consciousness vanishes. Have you read I Am That? Yes. After self-knowledge, it is difficult to sustain beingness. the vital breath suddenly leaves the body. In case of Sri Krishna, he continued despite knowing self fully. It is said that Bhagwan Krishna attained the highest state of realization. He is perfect in all respects. He could easily mix with the small or the big. He had no pose or stance of any kind. He was in the most natural state called the Sahaja Avastha. It is said that life is a circle. One goes where one began. An infant has no memory. They cannot recognize anybody. A very old man loses all knowledge and memory. He is almost like an infant. The old man is alive as long as the child principle exists. When that is no more, the man is declared dead by the people around him. But a sage calls it liberation and not death. You always stress on our consciousness. Why? You may have all the knowledge contained in any encyclopedia, but what is your first knowledge? First, I know that I am. That is my first knowledge. If that first knowledge is absent, what is the use of the rest of your knowledge, however great it might be? It is also useless. That is the importance of the knowledge you are, or of your consciousness. If that vanishes, can you enjoy anything? You may be a very rich man. Without consciousness, what is the use of all your wealth? Then, what is great? Wealth or consciousness? Is it enough if we keep in mind what we hear from you? No, it should not remain at the verbal level. Take the example of how the cattle get their nourishment from grass. They eat it, chew it, and then ruminate. You must assimilate what you hear in the same way. You must make it your own. Only then will there be no need to remember it. What is the difference between a disciple and his guru? The first is Atma and the second is Paramatma. The first has knowledge and the second transcends knowledge. Millions of dynamic Brahmins play in the Satguru. When I wake up from deep sleep, first I know I am and I notice the world. Your world is your consciousness as sunlight is in the sun. When there is consciousness, there are the 5 elements, 3 gunas, Prakriti and Purusha. If I am so great to have this great consciousness, self-realization should be easy for me. How can self-realization be a result of concepts? It is said that God is great. God and the primary illusion may be great, but without your beingness, who will recognize the greatness? You must always be conscious of the greatness of your consciousness. You are never your body. That is also very important. Truth, or the Absolute, must be full of knowledge. On the other hand, it does not have even the slightest touch of knowledge. This is not a hearsay, but my own eternal experience. The use of the word experience is only for your understanding. In reality, that word has no place. This bodily experience is a nuisance. It is like picking up an infant lying on a road and then taking the trouble to bring it up. Just as one who lifts the infant was not concerned with it, I am not concerned with the world and its experience. There was no compulsion to take care of the child, but it happened out of pity. Could you have avoided it? No. The yogis and ascetics are in search of truth. Only the eternal can be called as the truth, is it not? Yes. The association of truth is very normal for me. My present beingness is like a painful pimple. Since time immemorial, I am acquainted with the eternal and the truth, whatever they are. None can be a witness to this. What is your reaction to envy, hate, and quarrel in the world? I dislike people troubling others and inflicting pain on them, but people cannot give up their wrong tendencies. I ask my beingness, you were not there before and you are bound to vanish in a short period. What do you want? What will satisfy you? Why are you struggling so much? What is the use of the sense objects when your beingness will be no more? That is also our experience about our beingness. Whatever you see and do, you instantly know that it was not there prior to the so-called birth. Everybody has directly or indirectly taken initiation as per the religion to which he or she belongs. Is it not important to know that principle, which takes the initiation? Is it not necessary to find out what is the nature of that principle? Who will reply to my questions? Many such questions haunt us without any lasting solution. All living beings struggle all the time. As compared to the eternal all existence is momentary. It is only an appearance. Without any substance, human existence is like the daydreaming of an idle person lying in bed. All human wants are the desires of a non-entity. As compared to the eternal, the momentary existence of any form is really a non-existence. Then why take all the trouble? At present, I want to exist. I want to be. But how should I be? How should I look? What should be my nature? In what form should I exist? The human thinking is guided by emotions and tradition. It is also the origin and the content of every human form. Recently, I just started reading a book called Amruta Nabav, written by the sage Janeswar, with commentary by Mr. P.Y. Deshpande. I will tell Mr. Deshpande you are great to have done this work. What comes first, the experience or the experiencer? Of course, the experiencer comes first. What is the nature of the experiencer? And what is his experience of immortality? What is your observation? I cannot comment. So far, I've read only a few pages. Who is it that behaves? The three gunas or qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas do all the activity. Who makes use of the qualities in order to behave? Sattva is the quality of the five elements of which the first is space. The interaction or the conflict between the elements ultimately ends up on the surface of the earth. Then vegetation is created with various forms. From that are created the other living beings. Out of these, the best is the human form. What is eternal is the only truth. There is no coming and going or appearance and disappearance for it. As reality is one and only one, there cannot be any witness to it. What is going on is the ephemeral called the world. As compared to the eternal, the worldly existence is momentary, as if non-existent. All the experiences of a lifespan are restricted within that span. There is no continuity of experiences from one life to another. The eternal does not have the slightest touch of the primary illusion. The sense of being or the consciousness is absent in the eternal. One who feels that one is blessed cannot be realized. As long as there is an idea of virtue or of religious merit, there are no hopes of self-realization. Your present state is untrue, as it is changing and not eternal. You have to know your eternal state. My observation is in line with the following verse of Swami Ramdas in his book, Das Bodh. Whatever appeared, all that disappeared. Whatever was not, it did not exist. Whatever was left over from the above two, that remain but beyond all description. In this entire world, one who cannot find a witness to one's true being is a rare one. A devotee of God is protected by God, and he is devotee's witness. But a sage cannot find a witness to his true being. There is no witness other than the sage himself. If a visitor insists on his own stand, I encourage him to hold on to it. My only condition is that he should be fully satisfied with his own stand. There should be no disturbance from his mind. All our problems and our efforts to find a solution are due to the appearance of the beingness. In deep sleep, as well as after self-realization, when the beingness disappears, the problems are over. When you are ignorant, you can minimize your difficulties by avoiding hurting others. That Ishvara died in one. Then what happened? The same as it has happened here, in myself. My words are difficult to understand and much more difficult to accept. December 5th, 1979. Your consciousness is a cheat. In this world, we observe people's grief as a matter of convenience. How is that? A husband is in pain to see his wife dead. If we watch a woman when her husband dies, it appears that she may soon join her husband. But we are shocked to hear about her remarriage. What is the reason? You do not know what you are. What you think yourself to be goes on changing without your permission and knowledge. How then can your feelings and promises remain unchanged? That is true. Consider your own case, your own past. You will be surprised to see what you were and what were your thoughts as compared to your present condition. Your own identity is changing from time to time, from a handsome young man to a bedridden old person who needs to be fed by a spoon in his last days. Is there any honesty, any consistency in what you think you are? What is your identity that is under your control? I am interested in yoga. What is yoga? It is your union with your ideal. When you try to get anything, you have to consider what will be your identity when you get it. If it is going to take a long time for getting something, you are not likely to be the same as you are now. Due to the uncertainty, striving for something becomes meaningless. If you go into outer space, and if due to a technical problem you cannot return to Earth, your food supply is bound to get over. Then what will happen to your beingness? Your confidence that you are, what will happen to it? Does your self-confidence depend upon the world or upon the food juices that are consumed? If your existence is so dependent, what is the use of struggling to do anything? The proof of your being is in the food material. Our beingness is so dependent that it is of no value. If someone has a vision of Ishvara, there is no need to feel great about it. That vision does not make him independent of food material. When the food juices dry up, the beingness leaves without making any announcement. The various words in the Sanskrit language appear to originate under the influence of the knowers of truth. Take the word sattva, which is the first guna or quality. The quintessence of food is called sattva. This word is split into sat, tva. Sat means existence, and tva means you. Hence, sattva means the existence, which is you. The quality of the food essence is the knowledge you are. It is the eternal you which comes to know that it exists. Without a food body, the eternal does not know that it exists. This is not mere knowledge, but your own experience. Because of your body, you, the eternal, know that you are. When your body was not, you did not know about it. The eternal does not need food to sustain itself, but the consciousness, which is the expression of the eternal, needs food essence, sattva, to sustain itself. One who knows the source of consciousness realizes the eternal and realizes the eternal as his or her eternal state. When the beingness leaves the body, can we call it death? Death is the wrong word. We can call it liberation. When hot water cools, we do not call it death. It is similar to cooling of body. When beingness is no more, people say that I am a jnani. What do I know? I only know that the knowledge you are or your consciousness is a perfect cheat. You love your beingness, although it is intolerable. This paradox is the cheating. Even a bedridden person, breathing his last, wants to live more. He has lost everything, including memory. His close relatives have to get themselves introduced to him again and again. You might have earned great religious merit, but what will be your ultimate form to take it all along with you? When the drop merges with the ocean, where can it keep its earnings and certificates? What is the relation between the knowledge you are and the knowledge collected by you during your lifetime? When the knowledge you are itself becomes no knowledge, where is the accumulated knowledge? What control can you have over anything if your very being is out of your control? When our beingness vanishes, it is as if it never existed. What is left to talk about? The world is full of paradoxes. The word ananda or bliss is very liberally used as sadananda. This ananda and that ananda. But remember, ananda is a quality which has no place in the absolute, which is nirguna or non-qualitative. The bliss has a place as long as there is consciousness, but not beyond. Most of the people worship God for material gains. They do not need self-knowledge. God gives them what they want, worldly possessions and well-being. It is very rare to find a customer for self-knowledge. As long as there is consciousness, we can think of sin and religious merit. The consciousness is time-bound. When the consciousness is not, who is there to suffer sin or enjoy religious merit? When you know you are, with that knowledge you go on accumulating worldly knowledge. When you do not know you are, who is there to accumulate? You think you are this way or that way, but can you assure yourself that you will always be there to think in the same way? All our actions and experiences are time-bound. Nothing gives us lasting company, including this talk that is going on right now. We cannot take anything with us. Nothing remains with us permanently. Joy or bliss is a quality, and no quality can remain permanently with us. As long as we know we are, these qualities remain. These talks are like a brush to clear the ignorance so that the absolute opens up. Mostly people worship God, seeking reward for it. They have no interest in self-knowledge. People sing devotional songs, bhajans, or do meditation in order to get what they want. The true seeker dislikes such devotion, and he is a rare one. Our sense of being is godly. The ultimate purpose of spirituality is to know the self and be really peaceful. Many a time, seekers acquire spiritual powers and they get entangled in them. They think they have achieved the ultimate and that this is the end of their spirituality. Instead of meditating on an external object, meditating on the self within, is this also a kind of worship? That is the normal tradition of approaching the self. It is their faith which prompts them to do that. For all seekers, the ultimate destination is the same. But some practices are difficult, like pushing a cart instead of pulling it. We do not advocate any practices. One who reads the Bhagavad Gita correctly reads one's own information in it and not that of Krishna. One sees oneself as immortal, the eternal. One who takes oneself as the body remains mumukshu and does not qualify to become a seeker. Atma is not just a word, but it is what one is in reality. One loses one's individuality and remains as the self. A sense of being itself is the dynamic Brahman or Maya. Your existence without the sense of being is Para-Brahman, or the Absolute. When we know we are, the world appears along with all the problems. Not knowing you are gives you rest and peace. Your attention is incomplete. That which is beyond attention is full and complete. One must act without any expectations. The world is full of activity. The dynamic consciousness, Chaitanya, is full of struggle and conflict. When the I am is gone, all the trouble ends. What is the ultimate in spirituality? All the so-called knowledge, jnani, turned out to be vijnani, or beyond knowledge. The knowledge turned out to be no knowledge. Para-Brahman is said to be desireless. It means the Absolute is of no use to itself. It may be useful to others.